There is a familiar story in B2B selling that I want to share with you. Imagine a deal looks good, the buyer is engaged, all the meetings are happening everywhere, you are attending them, it's all going good, you think in your head the solution makes sense, and you put it in your pipeline and progressing with it, and you're talking to your sales manager and it's about to close, and then suddenly the buyer goes quiet. There's nothing. No clear next step, no decision. The whole thing just drifts. And most sellers at that point assume that means the interest has dropped or competition has entered the picture. But that's usually not what's going on. What actually happened in this case is that buyer just hasn't decided. And the conversation isn't helping them to decide. Buyers today are not uninformed. In actual fact, they're more informed than ever. If anything, they know so much stuff about you. And if you crop up with the same old, that doesn't help them to progress the decision. Remember, people make decisions one out of two reasons, either to gain an outcome or to avoid a risk. So if you can't help them gain an outcome, you have an issue. And if you can't help them avoid a risk, there's no urgency. So buyers do understand that market. They have compared the options. They've talked to your competition. They know roughly what solution like yours can do. What they're struggling with is something much more specific. Is the problem important enough right now for me to solve? Is this the moment to act upon that issue, or can it wait for another quarter? And if we do nothing, what actually breaks? Those questions rarely get addressed directly and sort of only tap danced around. Instead, many sales conversations stay focused on what? On the solution, on the product. It's about features, it's about capabilities, it's about implementation details and all these things. Useful, but not enough, because none of that answers the buyer's real dilemma, which is not what to buy, but whether to change. And change carries consequences, and that's a big issue for them. Budget conversations, internal alignment, exposure with senior leadership. So the conversation stays where it feels safe for you. I see this pattern all the time with sales organizations and sales leaders that we're working with. Salespeople build strong working relationship with people who are collaborative, they are engaged, they're nice to talk to, they talk regularly, they make sure they exchange information nicely, they redefine the solution together, but the conversation never quite moves to the level where a decision gets made. Not because access is impossible, but because the tone of the conversation would have to change. The stakeholder is more senior. People just feel uncomfortable to engage. The conversation would have to become more financial, more strategic, more explicit about trade-offs, for example. And that's where many deals slow down, because sellers just can't deliver on that level, on having that dialogue based on outcomes. When sellers sense that sort of hesitation a little bit, their instinct is usually to reduce the friction, going into that mode of, oh, I've got to give you what you're asking for. Provide a little bit more reinsurance, offer more proof, offer another case study, send another follow-up, and then another follow-up. But reassurance doesn't really resolve indecision. Clarity does, and help people avoid a risk. Buyers don't need to feel better about the solution. They already feel good about it, otherwise they wouldn't be talking to you. They need to feel clear about the consequences of not acting. Until that happens, doing nothing remains a very reasonable option. This is the shift many sellers miss. Momentum doesn't come from excitement. It comes from resolution. Resolution about priorities, resolution about timing, resolution about what stays the same and what doesn't if a decision is delayed. When those things are named, movement happens, and especially when they are directly brought up. Not always forward, but decisively. And that's progress in a deal. So, my lovely people, if you are sitting on a deal that feels close, but you are a little stuck, ask yourself this: where are we still talking about the solution? When the real question is whether the buyer is ready to make a decision, or better yet, what is the buyer losing by not making that decision? And am I framing that right to them? And why are you hesitating to have that discussion? If this episode reflects what you're seeing in your own deals, share it with someone who navigates complex buying decisions right now. They will definitely thank you for the insight. Subscribe whether you listen, watch us on YouTube, or visit the b2bsalestrends.com. Until the next time, my lovely people, look after yourself, your loved ones, and of course, your B2B customers. Bye-bye.